My name is Sagan. I watch over everything with my mighty cat self, and I love to sit on this coffee table. Hello everyone and welcome to Saturday. As we had promised yesterday. God, it's been like the entire time we've been in Greece has felt like a long time, and I'll explain a little bit of that soon. But today's going to be our Greece reflections video, where we talk a little bit about Greece as a whole, our trip as a whole, and why, even though we were there for however long,
10, 11 days?
We weren't there that long. You keep thinking we were there that long. We weren't there that long. It was like a week.
We flew in on the 1st.
It felt like
on the 10th.
Yeah, but it felt like we were there for like a month. So we'll talk a little bit about that. First, let's kind of start, since we don't really have a format for this video, and it'll probably be a little rambly. We'll just kind of start at the beginning of the trip and go through the end.
Okay.
That'll be the plan. So before we even left for Greece, a lot of you guys were a little freaked out for us because, you know, there was an economic crisis. There is Greece's, I don't know, system or whatever has been questionable, and people were worried that we were going to get like stabbed in the street and mugged and all of this stuff. So to alleviate all of those fears and worries, I felt extremely safe in Greece. Like, not once was I like, oh man, this is a scary place. No. I mean, I never felt that. You could see some
signs of the problem
throughout the time we were there. There were people lined up in front of like every ATM you would pass.
And it got worse as our 10 days went on.
Yeah, whenever we first got there, it was, you know, there were a few people, but by the end of the trip, they're like everybody was like
15 people in the line. There
was a lot of people trying to get their money. But we took cash. I think we explained that, maybe not on the vlog, but on Twitter or something. We took cash. We actually ordered euro from our bank, and we went and paid for everything the entire time, mostly, with cash. But most people still accepted cards.
Yeah.
That wasn't even a real big issue. And
we were asked to use cash to support the economy.
Yeah. There were some of the tour guides and stuff said that we should use cash if we could, because it would help. They also said that there was a limit on the amount of money that the Greek people could withdraw from their ATMs. It was like 60 euro a day. Mm-hmm. But that cap was only for the Greek people and not for anyone else. So, like, because we were bringing in essentially foreign currency and it was our banks at home and they were doing the conversion, we could withdraw whatever. We just never had to, because we had already brought cash. But the amount of cash that we brought was enough. We never like ran out of money or anything, and all in all, we were able to. We didn't feel like we couldn't buy anything. I mean, we
did. It was well.
We budgeted well for the trip, I guess, which was good. So whenever we got there, we were extremely jet lagged and felt like we were on the edge of death, but we managed to explore Athens a little bit. We ended up hanging out near the Acropolis a lot, which was odd because the next day we actually went. Mm-hmm. When I talked about it on that vlog day, but the first thing I noticed was there's so much graffiti, and what was odd is that followed it around. It was bad in Athens, but it was throughout the entire country of Greece.
Yeah, it was.
Entire country. And whenever we were in Athens and it was so bad in Athens, I kept thinking, well, maybe it's just Athens. But we went to the islands and there were traces of it on the islands. Then whenever we got back to the mainland of Greece and started traveling around other parts of the country, it was just as bad as Athens. I mean, there were so many times we were driving on the highway and like there was just graffiti everywhere. And they have got a huge graffiti problem. And it's not just citywide. It's not just in Athens. It's countrywide. And graffiti is, like, it's a weird... I don't know. You probably have your own opinions on this as an art teacher. But, like, graffiti, obviously, is illegal. And you're not supposed to do it. But some graffiti is really cool. I can't stand the graffiti where it's just like someone that like draws like their initials
That's
or like
tagging.
Tagging? Yeah.
Tagging and graffiti, there's a difference.
Okay, yeah. Tagging is stupid. I'm sorry. If you are someone who does tagging, that's my response to you. But also the graffiti is like the actual like big word art where people put in like lots of time and effort and have to use like various stencils to accomplish a result. Because some of the stuff I saw there was like absolutely brilliant. But usually it was like for every 100 tags there was one piece of graffiti art. The graffiti art was beautiful. And there was, I think, 1 or 2 walls that we saw while we were walking around where like the entire wall was that graffiti style art, either different people doing it or just kind of like a mural type thing, and that stuff was beautiful. And it's weird because like I understand that it's illegal, but I would have a hard time telling people to get rid of that. But the tagging was everywhere, and the tagging was terrible. And the anarchy symbol,
that was
the circle with the A in it was everywhere. Oh my god.
There was
all over the place.
A lot of stuff about the referendum and voting.
Yeah.
I know you didn't really know because it was all Greek to you.
Bop bop a doop a doop boop. That's Mal.
I knew what yes and no looked like in Greece, and there was also posters about the referendum everywhere. So there was a lot about that.
But also there was just graffiti in general. I mean, there was just a ridiculous amount of graffiti, so that was kind of a big.
There was the one guy from
turnoff.
SpongeBob. That you were like, hey, it's what's his face?
Plankton. On the Isle of Mykonos.
Yes.
I didn't get a picture of that because we drove by it too quickly, but someone had done a very good graffiti art of Plankton, and I was like, oh my god, it's Plankton! But we drove past it so fast I couldn't get a good picture of it, unfortunately. So the first real day of Greece, we were able to go up to the Acropolis and see that, and I thought that was absolutely beautiful. Okay, we would jump around here a lot, probably. What was your favorite part of the trip?
Santorini. Yeah.
Okay. How about the Acropolis? Is that high
That's
up there?
high up there.
That might be my favorite thing.
I think that might be my third favorite thing.
Okay. I mean, I don't want it to sound like the trip peaked early for me or anything, because I enjoyed my trip the entire time, but I just thought the Acropolis was just really, really cool. And
it was stunning in person. I mean, you see it in pictures and it looks like it's this big, but it's...
But I had other parts of the trip that I liked. Maybe even other parts that I thought were my favorite. I'm not sure. I really enjoyed Santorini and seeing Ia. And one of the things we may not have explained well was, obviously we went to Athens, and then after Athens we went to Piraeus, I think.
That's
was
the name of the port.
Was the
Piraeus.
port where we got on the
cruise ship.
On the cruise ship. We were on the cruise ship for several days going to the various islands. And you had the option to take excursions. And some of the places that you could visit, you could only visit if you had an excursion. Once again, I may have explained all of this in the blog, but I just wanted to double.
A few days.
Yeah, and I haven't edited everything yet, so I wanted to double down and make sure I have all of this information out there. But some of the excursion information just wasn't well explained. It was like, you're going to go up and see this or this. It just wasn't written in such a way where you felt like you were going to miss out on anything or there was going to be anything really interesting. So Mal and I skipped out on all this stuff because of that, and also because it was expensive. I mean, for us to go together, it was like
€57 a piece.
Yeah,
for some of them.
So it was like 110 to 120 euro, which is a lot of money just to go on a thing. So for the most part, I feel like we didn't miss out on anything. The only time I really did was whenever people went to Ephesus in Turkey, and we stayed in Kusadasi. And that was just a terrible experience. Yeah. And I know that we talked a little bit about that on the vlog, but it was just...
We missed out.
We really did. We really did miss out, especially because I've seen some of the photos that Mark and Rhonda took of Ephesus. And it's just so cool, and you can walk around and see everything, and the thing is, I highly doubt that we'll go back. And that's something we'll maybe touch on at the end of this video, but I don't think we'll go back to Greece. And I know that's Turkey, but just to Greece in general. And it's not that we didn't like Greece, it's that I feel like we actually saw everything. Mm-hmm. Do you get that impression?
Maybe a couple things, but I think we saw a really great deal of Greece.
Yeah. I mean, we were there for a good bit of time. We saw all the islands, we saw Athens, we saw all kinds of...
Greece.
Yeah, all kinds of little crap driving up through the middle of nowhere. Even times, we would stop and I'm like, I have no idea where we are. What is this? I feel like we got a really firm grasp of what Greece is about. But Greece is a good place to visit.
Yeah.
Like it actually, whenever we were going, I was like, I'm not really sure. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I wasn't really sure what there was to do in Greece. I didn't have a good understanding of what we would be seeing or the people. I was like, oh, okay, we'll see the Parthenon. You know, that was kind of my thinking. But there's so much history in Greece, and it was really interesting. The people were very nice. English. One of the tour guides said the English is spoken. Greece is the second most English-friendly country next to the UK or something, next to Britain. And I was like, oh, okay. So I mean, everyone in Greece, for the most part, spoke English. There were only a few people on our trip
we had trouble with
that we had any trouble because they spoke like no English. Almost everyone spoke at least some English and could help you out. So that was interesting. Anyway, I know we were following a format of like going through the days, but that kind of got shot all to hell.
Like, all this other stuff.
Well, there was some other stuff I wanted to explain. I was worried I wasn't going to remember it.
Back to the Parthenon?
Sure.
I was really excited to go to the museum too. The Parthenon Museum?
Yeah, I mean, that was probably, it was the Acropolis Museum.
Yes.
That was probably the best museum. One of the problems with this trip, I loved this trip, but one of the problems with this trip is that over the course of, you know, however long it was, 9 days or whatever, you start to become very disenchanted with rocks. Because at first it's really cool, it's a lot of history and you're seeing really interesting things, and the islands help break that up a lot too.
Yeah.
But then when we got back on the classical Greece tour, it was like, we're going to stop and look at some rocks. Then we're going to get back on the bus, and then we're going to stop and look at some rocks. Then we're going to get back on the bus, and we're going to get some lunch, and then we're going to stop and we're going to look at some rocks. There was just so many rocks, and
they all had unique stories. And
I know, and that's the thing. Like, I feel bad because it was cool. It was really cool, but after a while, your brain starts going, are we to the hotel yet? Like, are we done? Are we done? Because it's a long day. And every time you get out, it's like 100 degrees, and you're walking in the heat, and you're thinking, I don't want to look at these rocks. I'm really done with these rocks. Because they are all old, and they all are from, you know, this empire, that empire, and someone made this, or something fell on this, and it's, I don't know. I enjoyed it, but there was a little too many rocks. It's a little too many rocks. If I could change the way that the stuff went, I would have put the islands more in the middle instead of at the beginning, because that would have broken up some of the rock stuff. Because the islands were pretty much like third day. If you would have went to the islands like fourth or fifth day, that would have helped a little bit. But
the layout of the country does not allow for that.
I know that, but just saying. Also, I do feel like Greece is one of those places that if you are going to try and see everything like that you have to have a tour guide. There's no way that you could just rent a car and drive around and do your own thing and understand what the heck you're doing. Being on a tour like that is a necessity, like absolute necessity. And the company that we went through was Gate 1, and they were awesome.
They were amazing.
They were awesome the whole way through. They were very professional.
Everyone we met from Gate 1 was amazing.
Yeah, all the tour guides, all the drivers, everyone was super professional, and they were very nice, and they were very kind. They went out of their way, above and beyond, to do things for the group. There was more than one time where they had arranged ahead of time for us to have something that wasn't even on the tour. They were like, you know, we had someone make special hand soaps for the group, and everyone's going to get this hand soap.
Olive oil soap.
We've contacted these people, and we're going to be doing an olive oil tasting, and we're going to go do that. And, you know,
there was a time we stopped, and our tour guide saw a fruit stand and went and bought everyone in the group a pear. Yeah,
I mean, that kind of stuff. Like, that doesn't feel like that's a normal tour guide thing. But it was like that with every different tour guide we had. So Gate 1 was awesome, and I would highly recommend them, like, above and beyond for anyone else. Also, there's one thing I know we didn't talk about, and I wanted to make sure was on record somewhere on video. There was one day. Do you remember what day it was? The day that we stopped at Kutsochera?
Oh, where we had lunch.
Where we had lunch. Do you remember what day it was?
It was after we saw the ancient Olympic site.
It was that day?
That day.
Okay. I don't remember what day that was, but whatever day it was that we saw the ancient Olympic site, that day was the day we had lunch, and we don't show lunch on video, and I casually mentioned that we had lunch. There's a huge story behind that. and also why I didn't film any of it. But it was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in my life, and it was just really neat and added so much more value to our trip. So there's this city called Kutsachera.
Maybe.
I think it's a name, Kutsachera, in Greece. And it's very, very tiny. It's very, very poor. And something had happened where stuff like burned down.
Wildfires or earthquakes or something.
Something
maybe
had
both.
Something had like destroyed a lot of the town and messed up their schools or something like that. Anyway, our tour company, Gate 1, donated like a ton of money to this town to rebuild their stuff and help them out. And as a thank you, the town said, anytime you come through with a small enough group, please stop by this one person's house or whatever, and we will make your group a meal. So we had a pretty small group. We had like 20 people or so in our group, which was pretty tiny for a tour group. There was enough space on the bus where almost everyone could have an extra seat for themselves, which was really nice. So for lunch that day, we drove into this really super tiny town.
Very rural.
Very, very rural.
It had like not even stop signs anywhere.
Yeah, super, super tiny. Had a hard time getting the bus in there. And then we went to this family's home who didn't really speak English at all, and the tour guide did pretty much all the conversation for us. And they had created this amazing, very authentic Greek cuisine. And the reason I didn't film any of it was, for one, I believe I was either tired or listening to music like on the way up there, so I wasn't really sure entirely what was happening. But when we finally got there, it was very sudden. It was like, oh, we're in this town, oh, we're stopping. And I didn't want to film, because it wasn't like a restaurant. It was like these people's home, and I thought it was going to be a little weird if I was, taking photos or video of this thing, so I decided just to not film it. But it was really cool. We all ate on their porch. They had set up a bunch of chairs, and I don't know how many like houses just in general in this town there were, but there weren't very many. And they made us a meal and we ate it.
It was very good.
It was delicious.
And the family that hosted us there, they were super nice. Our tour guide had told them it was my dad and Rhonda's anniversary. I think it was that day, or it was like the next day or something. And the lady went to her garden and cut a rose off and gave it to Rhonda. And
yeah, that's another thing. Because it was Mark and Rhonda's anniversary, and they had just casually kind of mentioned that to the tour guide. It's not that they had even mentioned it. The tour guide had stopped us when we were getting on the bus, and she said one of the hotels we're coming up to had double beds, and
not two twins together.
Yeah, and she said, "Do you guys want a double bed?" She said, "I don't know the relationship between any of these people. I just want to make sure that it's cool if you have one." And Mark and Rhonda was like, "Yeah, that'd be great. In fact, it's our anniversary." And she was like, "Oh, okay." So she remembered that, and then on the day of their actual anniversary, or the next day or whatever, the tour guide had a bottle of wine sent to their room. So when they got to the room, they had that there. Like, that's just above and beyond stuff. That's amazing. That's really, really cool. Anyway, but yeah, that lunch was awesome. And I didn't film any of that, but it's kind of hard to explain, but it was a little uncomfortable, I think, to film that. And also, it all happened very, very fast. It was like, all of a sudden, boom, you're off the bus, you're in this little town, and
the bus couldn't even get to the house, so we had to walk.
It was an interesting experience, but I think that was the only thing during the trip that I didn't film, so it's not like you guys missed a whole lot. But yeah, that was a really unique experience. That Best Western that we went to was amazing.
Oh, that was probably the best place we stayed.
It was also probably the most modern hotel, and this is a bit of a dig on Europe as a whole, but I've been to England, I've been to Ireland, I've been to France, and now I've been to Greece, and in all of these places, Europe feels old. Europe feels like it's 30 to 40 years old. I don't know. I think England probably a little less so, but maybe it was just the places I had visited, or maybe my memory's a little rusty. But like the buildings feel old, the streets feel old. There's a different kind of atmosphere in Europe that isn't in the States. In the States, we want everything new. And if things aren't new enough, we tear it down, and then we just build something new over it. In Europe, a lot of stuff is old, and I get the impression that that's more appreciated. People are like, oh, this is old, and that's cool. But there were so many buildings that were just really old that we went into. Like the hotels felt old, because we were staying in a bunch of different hotels. And like, I don't like that. I hate to say that, but it's true. Like, maybe it's just because I'm used to this new everything in America, but I want things to feel new, and I want them to feel updated, and I want them to feel modern, and in Europe they just don't. I mean, am I wrong?
You've gotten used to a certain level of electricity availability and internet availability.
Yeah, but also just like the construction and the things like that. Like, things don't feel modern in Europe. Almost anywhere. There are some places that's a little better than others, but on a whole, it feels old.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Just saying. And it's not that that's a problem, but it's something that I'm not used to. And given the option of between the two, I would rather have the mentality of, oh, this building is 30 years old. Tear it down. It's 30 years old. Tear it down. Make a new one. We need newer stuff. Also wanted to hit on the cruise ship stuff a little bit because we felt pretty ill.
We'd never been on a cruise ship before.
Never been on a cruise ship before, and my mom, I told my mom like how we felt ill, how we got seasick almost immediately, and she told me, she said, don't let this affect your thinking of what cruise ships can be, because her experience was fantastic. She's like, I want you guys to be able to do this again and enjoy it. The cruise ship was okay. The cruise ship was very old, Europe, old, and it was.
The cruise ship was older than me.
Yes, it was old. It was like 30-something years old, I think. 30-something? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was pretty old. And it just, at night in particular, like it just got really choppy, and I got sick being in the room at all. Just, it was worse in the room. I think maybe some of the other stuff took place like in the middle of the ship, and that made a big difference. We were on the end of the ship, and I think that...
We were on the very front of the ship.
So I think that probably didn't help, because it was like rocking and all sorts of crap. And I don't know, man. I felt bad. I felt really, really ill. And the thing that was awful was that it stuck with you. I don't think we talked about that much on the vlog, but like even after we got off the boat, like days later, it felt like we were on the boat.
Practically till we got back on the airplane.
Yeah, practically until we got all the way back here. It felt like we were still on the stupid boat. You'd be like it would just hit you randomly. Sometimes you would be sitting. There was times where I would just be sitting, and all of a sudden it would just hit me, and I felt like I was going to fall over. I was so dizzy. And it was the same feeling as if I was on the boat.
And everyone on our tour group said that too. God. It was a small boat.
It wasn't small. You're not allowed to say it's small. It was pretty big. It held 1,500 people. And my parents were on a cruise ship that held like 2,500 people. It's not that much bigger. And, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, if we go on a cruise in the future, I'm willing to do it, but...
Our stateroom needs to be midship.
It needs to be midship, and I want to be on a gigantic boat with like a million people. 1 million people. That way they'll be big enough and it won't be affected by the rockiness. Maybe that's a little too much to ask for. Anyway. Anything else you wanted to hit on about Greece? I think we've touched on a lot.
The food?
Oh yeah, we should probably mention the food. In general, how do you feel about Greek cuisine? I
enjoyed it a lot.
I did too. I wasn't 100% sure what to expect. I didn't really know what they ate in Greece, but it's not that different. There's a lot of beef, there's a lot of chicken, there's a lot of seafood, there's a lot of lamb. They like meatballs. They like, obviously, feta cheese. I had so much feta cheese.
Feta was
I was
so good.
constipated on day 4.
Because of all the feta you ate.
It wasn't just feta. It was just cheese in general. There was a lot of cheese and stuff. But I got constipated like day 4 or 5. I was like, oh my god, I gotta stop eating so much cheese. And then I kept eating cheese.
They kept serving us that...
Tzatziki?
No, that too. I like tzatziki. But that drink...
Ouza?
Yeah, ouza.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever talked about that. That's a thing. There's a small alcoholic drink. They only put like this much in the glass, and it's clear. And you're supposed to water it down, like you pour water into it. and then it becomes cloudy and
milky,
gross looking.
But they didn't tell us that until like the third time someone had tried serving it to us. That's how you actually drink it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have any to begin with, but the stuff smelled...
It's like drinking isopropyl.
Yeah. Like, it was just not... It didn't look good. It's also not a good sign when they only serve you this much, but you're supposed to water it down and consume it like that. Rhonda actually just drank it straight, which was very brave of her. And there was one time where they brought us... there was someone that was serving us ouzo and white wine. And they said you could choose, and they were giving everyone ouzo or white wine, and they asked me what I wanted, and I'm like, no thank you, I'm good. Because I didn't want either. And I felt like I offended the person. He was like, it's like, it's free, please, just take one. I'm like, no, that's okay. And he was like upset, and then Rhonda was like, he'll have ouzo. And then Rhonda just took mine as well. So that was fun. Yeah, ouzo is kind of like a... It's not a pre or after dinner drink. It's both. It's just a Greek thing where they...
serve it.
It's like a cheers thing that you do, and I don't know. It smells really, really terrible. But all in all, I liked the Greek cuisine that we had. It's not too terribly different. I mean, the weirdest thing is probably the tzatziki.
Really? You thought that was the weirdest?
I think that's the weirdest thing. It's a Greek yogurt that's served on and in lots of stuff. It's in the gyros. It's on the salad.
Oh, it's good though.
I don't think it's that good.
Oh, I liked it.
I'm also a texture guy, and I'm not big on that texture.
I think one of the weirdest thing I ate was like those dolmas that were wrapped in the grape leaves.
Oh, those were bad. Those were
you
bad.
Don't like dolmas.
I tried one of those, man. Those. Did you like them?
I did. It was just weird.
I think we had them at a different place, and the ones I had were bad because they were legitimately not good. Ugh. I ate both of mine too. I put both of them on the plate, and I was like, I'll eat both of them. But it was, oh god, those were bad. But almost everything else was good.
They really know how to cook potatoes.
Yeah, the potatoes were really good.
And their French fries, there was not one bad French fry we ate.
Yeah, there was a lot of French fries that we ate in Greece, and they were all extremely good.
They were cooked different than we were used to. I don't know what was done with them.
They weren't like crispy.
Yeah.
They were, in fact, they were barely fried. Really.
They had such a potato taste. I liked them a lot.
Yeah, they were good. The food in Greece was very good. Anyway, all in all, Greece was a lot of fun.
Yes.
And I haven't edited all the vlogs yet, but I think that the vlogs show that. We had a wonderful time, a really great place to visit, and it was just so much more than I was expecting. Is a really good way of putting it. It was so much more than I was expecting, and I would really recommend people visit. I really would. Before we went, I wasn't sure what to expect, but now that I've gone, I realized that there is so much to see. And if you're a history nut, especially ancient history, you really owe it to yourself to go and check that stuff out. I mean, to actually walk the Acropolis, to actually walk the site of the ancient Olympics, there's a feeling that you can't put into words, that you can't show on video, that's just really amazing to see it and to say, man, people, 2,000 to 3,000 years ago were walking here and building here and doing all this stuff. It was just amazing. It was just really cool.
It was cool.
It was really, really cool. And I would urge anyone who is looking at, possibly doing an international trip, who is big into history, to consider it. Because Greece was a wonderful place to visit. You do not have to learn the language to visit. So many people speak English. And it was fun. It was just really, really fun.
And like we said, we felt totally safe and welcomed.
The Greek people are very kind. They're very kind, they're very warm, and you get that impression. And Greece is so varied. There's so much, because Greece is only like the size of Alabama, and there's so much crap in Greece, so much stuff. Like, you can drive around and you can see all of the varied landscape. You can go to the islands, and that takes several days in and of itself. You could probably just go to the islands and spend a week island hopping, and you would have a fantastic time. So there's just so much to do, so much to do. Like I said earlier in the video, we probably won't go back, just because we felt like we got the experience, but not because we didn't enjoy it, because it was very enjoyable.
What's it you've said before? World is big, half place enough?
That's a line from Speak the Hungarian Rapper.
World is big, a place enough.
But yeah, World is Big have place enough.
There's places we want to go.
There's a lot of other stuff to see, so we need to go see it. But Greece is awesome and highly recommended. Big thank you to Mark and Rhonda for taking us on this trip, because it was fantastic, and it was one of those trip of a lifetime things. Greece or Ireland?
Oh, you can't do that.
Greece, yeah,
Greece,
I can.
Yeah.
Greece. No offense to anyone in Ireland, and Ireland was cool, but Greece, man, Greece was a step up from Ireland. Different experiences, though.
Yeah.
Definitely different experiences. And depending on what you're trying to do or what you're trying to, plan for a vacation, then maybe Ireland would be more your scene. But Greece was a great time.
Yeah, it was.
Great time. Anyway, long vlog. Lots of reflections to talk about, but that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. We have just a few days. Oh my god. Just a few days until we leave yet again, going back to Tucson for Camp Fangamer, the Earthbound convention. Going to be 300 to 350 people there. Just spending a weekend there. Haley and Alex will be there. Should be a good time. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not looking forward to the fact that I have so much to do before then.
Yeah.
Never stops. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, let's meet back tomorrow, shall we? 8 years ago, I flew into London, but it was into Gatwick. And this is the first time I've ever been in Heathrow, and it went from airport to shopping mall like that.
It's easy to become obsessed with, his special moves, but his combo game is very strong as well, so... Yeah, you didn't like that, did you? Sure you go! God.